the other realization I think that has come with that age group has been that that age group also struggles not just with career, but see, this is when relationships are coming in.
Yeah.
You're meeting the person, you're dating somebody who hopefully is going to be your wife or husband. You're interacting with friends who hopefully are going to work the journey of life together with you.
Yes.
And you are involved in a community where you're beginning to feel that you want to give back. And all of these are clashing with, you're still human, you only have the 24 hours.
Yes.
So here you are wondering, should I go to school and further my education, or should I go out for a date with this person whom I want, who's asking me out on a date so that perhaps we can see this forward? Or do I go for a weekend hangout with my friends because, I want to develop that relationship? So you have all of these clashes and a lot of confusion around where's my priority? I want it all, but the reality is I can't do it all at the same time. So how do I then prioritize? So I find that is another struggle that they have. The third struggle that I have seen is financial, because at this age, you are quote unquote independent from your parents.
Yep.
You're expected to be, sorting yourself out, pay your rent, buy your food, and, send a little something my way every once in a while. But you're still very junior, so you're not earning too much. And you want to go out with your friends. So a lot of that age group, I find, also struggles with finances, how to manage it, how to grow it, what to do with what you have. Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel, because when we were growing up, clearly there are a lot of parallels. We didn't have social media then. Do you feel like it has added to this pressure?
Definitely. Because for us, when we talked about peer pressure was the people I was with.
Yes.
In my immediate vicinity. That was my peer pressure. But the age group today, that particular age group today, their peer pressure is international. It's international. It is from different schools, different universities. I'm working in Kenya, but I'm looking at somebody who's working in Dubai and thinking, wow, that's where I want to be. So I think there is an element of a bit more of that peer pressure. And I think also it doesn't help that because of social media, news travels a lot faster. So you see, for us, we had the benefit of time for making decisions.
Yeah. Wow.
Now you find that decisions have to be made a lot faster because information is coming at you like this. And if you take too much time to make this decision, then by the time you're making it in a week's time, things have changed. So now you have to start thinking differently again.
Yes.
So I do think that, there's a little more pressure for them now.
Yeah. I find that I want to hear what you think about that, and that this formal phenomenon with the fear of missing out. So we are having to make these decisions really quickly because there just might be something new and very soon. I don't know how you feel about that, because I read somewhere that now we are being called Homo sapiens because, we don't want to miss out. We are keeping up with this so much. And we have to make decisions real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So let's come back. I want us now to wind down, and I want you, from your experience, and I really thank you, because I think you are mentioning things that are novel in a sense and that are really, really helpful. If you are a young person now going through this, what advice would you give the young people? Because they are going to navigate this season. They're going to come into realization or into the logical place at 25. And it's very possible that there will be a lot of them who will feel the way that you have described. Their logical brain will form properly, and they will be looking back and looking to the front and wondering where they're headed. What advice would you give these young people?
I think number one would be to not get caught in the trap of sunk costs. And by this, I mean that you might have invested your time and money and energy in a particular thing for a few years.
Yes.
Now, sometimes when you look at that investment, You don't want to quote unquote throw away that investment. You're thinking, I've spent 4 years of my life, 5 years of my life in school. I've already worked 3 years in this particular organization in this position. How can I just, leave that behind? And it's actually a phenomenon even in management where you find organizations hanging on to an idea for too long because we've spent so much money investing in X. We now no longer want to do something different. So my advice would be, don't get caught in that sunk cost element. Be willing to leave it behind, because unless you're willing to leave it behind, you can't have anything new. And when you're young, you feel that 4 years, 5 years is a really long time. But you and I, Tony, are now in our 40s.
Yes.
And 2 years, 4 years, it's not that long anymore.
not much changes. We are doing what we are doing now.
So I'd say don't be scared of leaving things behind. Don't be scared of leaving things behind. If you get to a point and you realize that it's not working, then you do need to be able to say, you know what, I need to figure a way out of here. It might not be that you're cutting, you're cutting the string, immediately and just dropping away, but it might be that you're beginning to slowly walk away and change direction, pivot so that you can do things differently. That would be my advice number one. My advice number two would be vulnerable. And I know vulnerability is difficult. I myself only acquired vulnerability, I think, at around the age of 35, between 35 and 40 is when I finally allowed myself to be vulnerable. And by vulnerable, I mean, be willing to open up yourself to others, to admit that you have made a mistake, to admit that you are confused, to admit that you don't really know which way forward. Because the moment you're willing to do that, then you will find that people are willing to give you a leg up, to give you some advice, to provide you with different opportunities to explore, sometimes even to do the very practical thing of maybe even hosting you. And Tony, that as a family, we have hosted several youngsters as they have gone through this phase. But unless somebody is willing to be vulnerable and say, I think I need support, I'm trying to figure myself out, I don't have anywhere to live right now, would you give me a room for a year as I figure myself out? If you're not willing to ask that, then it's unlikely that somebody will look at you because you're pretending to be doing okay. So no one will know that you're suffering.
The days of fake reality.
Vulnerability. That vulnerability is important. Of course, you have to be careful who you're vulnerable with. So, develop friendships with older people, ask questions, don't be shy about it. I always say, when you ask a question, the worst thing that somebody can ever tell you is no. So you're no worse off anyway. But majority of the times you'll get something. Even if I'm not able to provide, I might give you some insight you didn't have before. I might connect you with somebody who then can assist you. Sometimes even the process of sharing just clarifies what it is you want to do for yourself. So it's not a lost opportunity.
All right. I like the part that about sunk cost, and I'm tempted to give a quote that I have seen doing the rounds on social media, that in the next 4 years, if I don't decide to make a change, the next 4 years will still happen. So if I don't decide to make a change, I will be where I am. If I decide to make a change in the next 4 years, for instance, if I decide to take a different degree and start from scratch, in the next 4 years, I will have a degree. If I do not, the next 4 years will still happen, either way. So in terms of sunken cost and starting anew, I think it's great advice that we should learn that sometimes the sunken cost is a fallacy and we can actually start anew. I love that very, very much. Now that you have talked about these young people interacting with older people and being vulnerable, let's talk to parents. What would you advise parents of these young people going through this season?
Now, this is a little bit interesting because my own children are not yet quite there. But if I was to think about myself in a few years' time,
Yes.
interacting at that level and just talking to fellow parents at that level,
Mm-hmm.
let me see, what do you think? What do I think would be useful there?
Mm.
One, I think, is the realization that your child has grown up.
Mm.
You are not, quote unquote, the boss of them anymore. So stop, in Kenya, we like to say, don't catch feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get overly emotional
Mm-hmm.
about the decisions that your children are taking.
Yes.
Allow them to take the decisions. Mm-hmm. I think also understand that mistakes will be made. You have made them, I have made them, your children will make them. Yes. Mistakes shall be made. So be forgiving and be willing enough to just be there. Mm-hmm. Because at that age, children don't need, quote unquote, smothering. Yeah. They will come back to you for a bit of advice, a bit of direction. Mm-hmm. But if you're the kind of parent who is very judgmental or very highly opinionated, then your child, of course, will never come to you because they know what your response shall be. So you will not have that opportunity to parent your child at that stage. Yes. So I think for me that is what I can think of, that element of being open and just understanding that mistakes shall be made. Let your child know that mistakes shall be made. Expect them, and just know that regardless of whatever mistakes you make, I am here to provide that guidance and support to help you move on to the next stage, because it's a stage. It doesn't last forever. Yeah. People get caught up in it and it lasts very long when they don't know how to get out, but you can be the person that helps them get out of it.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, I'm parenting a preteen. So it's good advice, especially to get us ready because it is coming. And it is also good advice when we look at how, especially after being vulnerable, how would we have wanted to be treated when we were in our own crisis before we developed fully to make those decisions, and then possibly use the same wisdom that in hindsight, the way we think would have helped us, and possibly apply that with our own kids. And lastly, what about professionals who are leading these young people? I normally tell my friends that we don't have older people coming into the workplace. It is the young people and the younger who are going to keep coming, and we ought to have proper strategies. From your experience, how would you advise the leaders of young people? Yes, in the workplaces.
I think you mentioned one of it is know they're coming. Don't pretend. Don't pretend that you're going to be hiring 35-year-olds. Yes. You won't. You are going to be hiring 22-year-olds, 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds. That is the reality. Yes. So one, stop pretending. Two, be open. And I think when I think about the multi-generational element that we have in our workplaces today. Today, I think I was reading some statistics and they're saying that we have the most generations working ever. Because in some organization, you have 5 generations working within a whole line. And it is not necessarily that the oldest generation is the most senior. So there's a lot of interrelation happening between the generations that was not experienced before, and that I think a lot of organizations are simply not prepared for. But when I think about how best then do we engage with the 20-somethings, I think one, respect. You hired this person, and let me speak about it as if I was the one being hired. Yes. You hired me. You chose me. Yes. Having chosen me, why are you then rejecting me? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Yes. So be prepared. And I think if we go back down to basic human decency, I think if you are able to do just that, even without understanding the characteristics of the different generations, if you're able to extend basic human decency to everybody who is within your organization, I think you'll be fine. Respect the person. hear the person out. You chose this person to work for you, so give them the opportunity to do exactly that. I mean, you wouldn't go out and hire a CEO and then tell them, don't leave your office. The only thing I want to come from you is just reports. You would so I think that element of basic human decency, basic human respect, having a heart or a mind of growth. When I interact with this person, you might be coming in today as you know, a junior accounting officer. Yes. But what do I see in you? Where can I help you get to? If in 2 years' time you're able to move on to a senior accounting officer, then it is to your benefit as well as mine as a team leader or as a manager. So I think that's that element of being willing to grow people, being open to new ideas, because I think that's the other area where the 20-somethings really suffer, because somebody comes up with a new idea, fresh idea, and says, you know, could we try X? And you're like, no, 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 we don't do that in this organization. We do not do that. And you don't even listened, you're not heard. So take your experience because it is useful. Yes. Guide the person in their thinking and just find out, be curious, ask the questions. Where are you coming from with that? How do you see it helping us? What challenges might there be in going that way? Because that way you're also developing this person to become a better manager. And when they do eventually become a manager, they can also provide opportunities. So there's a lot of space for improvement for us there.
I like that. Space for improvement, and you talked about guiding. I know I had said last, but I'm tempted to ask one more thing. You're a coach, you're a trainer, you are a leadership development expert. So how do you feel these tools, or the corporate and especially the senior ones, can use the array of tools that are available for them to develop this young talent?
Oh, wow. You know, they say that, you know, the world is your footstool. Indeed, here, the world is the footstool. There's so much available. One thing I would say for anybody managing others, please take a coaching course. Not because you want to be a coach. You don't need to become a professional coach. But there are skills that you learn as a coach that will be useful to you as a manager and even as a parent. Because you learn how to ask questions. You learn how to listen, because listening is not easy. You know, there's one thing hearing the words, but then you need to listen deeply, and not just, you know, there's this thing that goes around, you listen actively. So you're talking to someone, it's not just going, not that kind of listening. But here you're listening with a view to understand, with a view to help a person get better, to develop potential. So I would recommend coaching for everybody, even if you do not want to become a coach. I think if I think about those skills, I think they're critical for anybody who is working with other human beings, regardless of what capacity. The other thing that I would recommend would be self-awareness. Because if you do not understand yourself, then it's very difficult for you to be the best that you can be, first of all, but even to accept others in they are, and to be comfortable with accepting others as who they are. My journey of self-awareness has been long, and it continues. I love to learn about myself. I love to understand. So why do I think this way? Why do I react in this way? And by doing so, it helps me to see others and say, so Tony likes things done this way. So if I want something from Tony, then I know this is generally what I need to do. Some people say it's manipulative, but I don't think it's manipulative if I am coming to you with the intention of, you know, with good intention. What I'm looking for is getting to understand you better, so that we can have better results together. Synergy. You bring what you have, I bring what I have, and we make amazing things happen.
Wow. Thank you so much, Carol. I think this has been very eye-opening, and I believe it will go a long way in assisting the young people, in assisting parents and the people that lead these young people to instead of fight, actually build synergy and realize that it's a stage. I like the part that you said it's a stage and that it doesn't last forever. I mean, no one is young forever, and eventually everybody goes to a different stage in life. One last thing, Carol, do you think quarter life crisis is real?
Absolutely. It is. And I mean, based on what we've discussed, I think at every level we saw an element of it. So yes, it is. It is. Yes.
Thank you very, very much. And this marks the end of the program. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Tony. It has been a delight being here.
Asante.